In this video, we're going to work through Chapter 2 of the Unreal Cookbook called Customizing Opaque Materials and Using Textures. This chapter has a lot of really interesting content that will help you be able to make lots of variations of materials on your objects without having to recreate everything from scratch again. So if you haven't done so already, make sure you make a folder in your content directory that is your last name, first name. I, for this week, made two different folders inside of there called levels and materials just to kind of keep my stuff a little bit cleaner. And last, if you haven't done this as well, make sure you open up the 0201 start level and then save it out into your folder as 0201 underscore your last name. So the first thing we're going to work on is creating a material for this tank that uses an ID map to help us place different tileable textures on different aspects of this toy. So for instance, we're going to put metal on just the parts that are supposed to be metal in like a tannish kind of color on the parts that are not metal. ID maps are really useful if you've never worked with them before. They basically work like a mask. So we can mask out different areas based on, if the area has an R, G, or B color on that ID map. You can easily make these maps in Maya itself, as well as over in Substance Painter. You can make in Photoshop, you can make ID maps. You can bake them out in Substance Painter if you do make them in Maya. So first things first, what do we, let's take a look at this static mesh of the toy. Let's go to it. It'll let me, there we go. And if we open it up, we can take a look at its UVs just so you can kind of see what it has. The reason this works is because it does have a nice UV layout. And if you do plan to use an ID map, it is beneficial to make sure that you have a clean layout so that it's easier to use. So let's close this up and let's begin. If you go to your materials folder, we're going to right click, create a new material named M_toy tank. And let's open it up. So the first thing we do want to do is let's bring in our texture sample. One really useful shortcut, you're going to find that you do texture samples a lot in Unreal, is we are going to just hold down the T for texture, and then click, and that is a shortcut to create a texture sample node. What texture do we want to put into here is we want to find that the T_tanks texture. So I'm just going to do this drop down and search for T_tanks. And it is, let's see. I don't think it really matters. They're both in here. Let's just do this one in chapter 2. And it is this RGB image. Next, we need to create our two colors. So remember, if we hold down 3 and click, we'll get our constant vector 3 for our first color, and then another one for our second color. And the way that this is going to work is we're going to use a lerp node to go between them. So the way the lerp works is that if we have one color on the red, it'll show through. If we have, this one will be on. Sorry, let me back up. This first color, this color down here will be, and we're gonna just set this to tan. Let's set the colors as I talk about this. This is our tan color, kind of like it's supposed to be like a wood sort of color. So if you can kind of visualize that as the kind of tan you're making. If that is on the red, if your pixel on the surface of your texture is on, you know, part of the red part of the mask, it's going to show this. If it is on the green part, we're going to do this one as like a silver, like a metal sort of color. If it is on the green part, it will show as this. And we do this by using a lerp node. It just stands for linear interpolation. I'm just going to use a shortcut key. You can find it. You can search for lerp and locate it in here. There's a lot of different lerps though. And the one that we want to use though, luckily has a shortcut key because honestly, you do use this a lot. And no surprise, if you hold L and click, you get your lerp. So the way that we set this up, put your brown into the B, put your gray into the A. We're going to say anywhere, you know, we're going to again use this as a mask. Anywhere that it is red, we're going to show this. Anywhere that it's not red, we're going to show this. Now, where the lerp happens is, and this doesn't really happen on this specific material itself, but if there was any kind of weird blend between, so, you know, if you had a pixel that was kind of had some half red information and half green information, excuse me, it would blend the two together. But since this is all or nothing, that's not going to happen with this material, but that is a really useful kind of concept to use. You use lerp a lot for this kind of thing because you can easily make a really nice terrain material that blends between the two of these using a very similar concept to this. Next, we need our third color. Oh, I'm sorry, I got them mixed up. This is more of like a rubbery one. The third color is going to be, I'm going to just darken this up a little bit. The third color is going to be our metal stuff that's on the blue channel, those things. So let's make our third color, hold 3 and click. This one we're going to just set to white because this is going to be our metal. We're going to make another lerp node. So held L and click. And this time we're going to feed this first lerp into A. We're going to feed this new color into B. And let's kind of clean this up a little. These can get pretty messy. We're going to feed the blue channel for this mask into our alpha for this. And if it does start to kind of annoy you that we're getting all this stuff, remember we can double click to add a little node. Oop. And move, oh, come on, sorry. Get a little bit weird with these sometimes. There we go. And we can kind of shuffle these around to be a little bit cleaner. Sometimes you really need this to help you understand what's going on. So I was just double clicking on there to add a little node, what are those called? I guess a node to clean this up some. All right, and that's it for our base color. So we can put this in. We're going to hit apply, save, and let's put this on our model and see how it's going. So I'm going to, we can see that masking going on. Let's drop it on. And we can see we're getting our colors on the correct portions of that. So let me slow my camera down. This is way too fast. It's messing me up. That's better. Base color is done. Let's work on the next one. So I'm going to first kind of clean this up a little bit. It's a good idea to kind of make sure that you aren't making your graph too messy. So let's put these in a comment box. I'm going to select them and then hit C on the keyboard for comment. I'm going to call this one base color. That way too, I can easily kind of move this up and out of the way. Let me zoom in so you can see this a little better. Nice thing too, we can always change this. Like if you start setting, you know, different colors to mean different things. Like we could do base color is our yellow. I just kind of move that out of the way. Next, let's work on our metallic. It's going to be almost, very similar to this one, where we're going to use two lerps to kind of mask out areas, because we only need the metallicness to be on our metal pieces. So let's just drop our nodes down. We don't need a full constant vector 3 for metallic. We just need a constant 1. So I'm going to hold 1, and I'm going to, there is our first one. There is our second one. We'll need our third one. We'll need that texture sampler again. So I'm going to hold T and click once. And we're going to need two lerps. So I'm going to hold L, click once, click twice. And now we just need to hook them all up. We'll hook up this one into B. Remember, this is our our red and our green. Those are not metallic, so those are going to stay at 0. We'll then hook this into our red channel into here. This is for the one that actually is metallic, our blue channel. So let's set this value to 1, so it's metallic. We'll feed this lerp into this A on this lerp. We'll feed this one into the B. And then we just need to hook the blue channel into here. And we're going to clean this up a little bit just to make it nice. Always have a hard time. There we go. The nicer you can make, the easier you can make these, the easier it is to see what's going on. There we go. Select it all, hit C. This is our metal. I'm going to change the color to blue, and let's hook it up to our metallic. Let's hit save, and oh, hold on. Oh, that's right. I forgot to put that in there. I went a little bit too fast. I was getting a little too excited. T underscore tank masks. That looks a little bit better. Okay. Maybe you did it along, and realized that my mistake before me, but that's fine. Okay. Let's hook it in. We're not getting too much yet. You can kind of see it a little bit on here. The reason is we really do need to set up that roughness before it'll really start to pop. So let's make sure that that is set up as well. I don't think this part is in the book to set up it, but I'm going to try it anyway. I think it'll get, you can kind of see the metal happening, but it's really hard if it isn't shiny. So what happens if we hook this into the specular? Does that give us some good stuff? No, let's not. Let's at least just give it a base color. I'm going to just put a constant down into roughness. It's a little bit too much, but we can drop this down to maybe like a 0.5. Maybe a little bit more. Let's go to like a 0.2. That looks better. That feels closer. So yeah, this part isn't in the book, but I think it's just going to kind of help it a little bit. Let's save it. Yeah, it looks a little bit more metallic now. We're starting to get that shine on it. All right, and that is it for that first material. Let's move on to the second material. So this is, we got our one done. What if we have multiple tanks though, and we want to be able to do different colors? Like this is the tank for level 1, level 2 has a different color scheme, but you don't want to have to, go in and make like, let's make M toy tank level 2, let's make M toy tank level 3. We want to be a little bit more efficient with it. So let's set this up. Okay, we're going to close that. We're going to save the scene. Let's open up our next scene. Chapter 2, 2. We are going to then do a save scene as. Can't save current level as. And what we need to do is we need to, if it's a little bit broken, what if you don't see that, you might need to actually just apply your texture to it. And what we're going to do is go back into this texture that we created, and we're going to go up to where that base color is that we did. We're going to find our color for our metal, which is this white color. And we are going to then right click with this with our mouse, and we want to use convert to parameter. And we're going to call this one like metal color. We know that we did this correct because we can see it says param, and we do need to go through and do the rest of them. So right click, convert to parameter. We'll call this one like body color. And this one is the tire color. We can also then go down to all of our metal ones, like these ones. And we can do convert to param and call this one metal. I probably should have thought of a better one for this one. Metal. I think in the book they call it canon. This one, convert to parameter, is the body metal. And this one then is tire metal. And we only did this one for the roughness for the whole thing, but we can still convert this to a parameter. Let's call this roughness. Okay, I'm going to save that. Nothing should change on your model. We are just exposing these now. This is a way that we can now work with this, and we can adjust those parameters that we set outside of the shader without actually having to go into the shader. This would be how you would create materials on a team. Like if you were the tech artist and you needed to make some materials and you need to expose parameters to your artist to play with, but you don't want them coming in and messing with your graph and breaking things. You expose what you need them to change, and they stay out of your stuff. So let's close this. And now if we go to where that material is, if we right click on it, where is this now? Create material instance. Oh, right here. Sorry, I'm blind. Create material instance. And we're going to name this one MI Toy Tank. Take out that. And what this now is it's a copy. It's an instance of this. So if we go in and change the guts of this one, like we add some extra stuff, we move things around, we change a LERP to something else, that material's guts will change too, because it's an instance of it. But what we can do now is if we double click on that one, the instance, rather than going inside of it, we can see all of the parameters that we exposed. So now we can make custom parameters. So what if we decide that we want, you know, that body to actually be metallic? We want the metal part to actually, we're going to keep that metal too. We want the roughness value to be a little bit different. What if we want it to be like a little bit shinier, or I'm sorry, a little bit more matte? And we're going to not have metal on the tires. We can change the body color to maybe like a purple. We can change the metal color to like a nice green. We're making a Joker themed tank now. And we'll change that tire to like a yellowy khaki sort of color. Let's make it a little bit darker, a little bit richer. There we go. And then we can save this one. And we'll just duplicate, you know, it didn't change this because this is an instance of it. We can then duplicate this tank and apply that to the new one. So now we have our level 1 tank, and now we have our level 2 tank, and it was extremely fast to make that. We didn't have to go in and play with anything. We didn't have to move nodes around, we didn't have to touch it, and it's extremely fast to make that. And the good news is if we realize we made a big mistake, we fix our parent material and it'll fix all of the instance materials like on the back end. The really cool thing too about instance materials is you can change them in real time. It does go over that in the book. I am not going to cover that in this lesson. This is something that you can work through yourself. It's extremely useful to be able to do that. So I would take a moment and work your way through how to change your instance at runtime. And that's it for number 2. We're going to move on to how to texture a small prop. So we're going to still use this tank, but let's save our scene. Let's open up our next one. Let's go to, sorry, I'm losing myself. Levels, chapter 2, 2, 3. Yes, let's save that. And we're going to start in this scene. There's no reason for us to do, you know, super crazy busy work. What we're going to be doing, we're going to be texturing this thing. It's extremely close to what we did for our first one. So I'm just going to actually just duplicate this first texture and rename it M toy tank underscore, oops, let's try that again. M toy tank underscore, oh, come on, I can't click today. Textured. Because what we want to do is we want to add just some textures in rather than those solid colors. So let's put in the wood grain first. That's going to go where this is instead. So let's just select this one and delete it. Oops, not you. Let's delete. Hold T and click. And the texture we're going to put into here is called T underscore wood pine D. So we'll throw that in there. And we're going to hook this back into our lerp. Let's have a little bit more control though over this. You know, this kind of, it's in there as is, but what if we do need to make some adjustments to its tiling? We can do that right here in our material. We're going to hold down the U key and click to create this texture coordinate. You can also search for texture coordinate node. And we're going to give it a tiling, a UV tiling of 3, so that this will tile 3 times when we get it all hooked up. We're going to then add a custom rotator node so that we can also rotate our texture just in the material. I'm just going to search for it, custom rotator. Not everything has a shortcut key. We'd run out of keys. So we're going to connect our texture coordinate, which is our scaling. So it tiles 3 times into the UVs. We need to give it a rotation angle, so we can do that with our with a constant 1. So hold 1 and click. Hook that into a rotation angle. And let's give it just a value of 0.25. So it's rotating just a little bit, just so it's not super straight. And then we can hook this whole thing up where it tiled it, it's rotating it into our UVs. And you can see that, I'm sorry, it flips it 90 degrees, not just a little bit. It's on a value of 0 to 1. So we rotate it a different way, and we got it to have much more details on this. Next, let's make our tire color have a little bit more variation as well. Let's add those into it. It's getting more complicated. So it's not just a flat color. If you do want to see what this looks like, we can, save it. And we can apply it. You can see our nice wood. But let's focus on those tires. Let's make it a little bit more rubbery. So first things first, we might want to darken this just a little bit. Make it a little bit closer to like a rubbery kind of color. Next, we're going to add in some variation into this. So first, let's create a little bit, how would I say this? I guess darker version of this, so that we can kind of tile it kind of on top of itself to create kind of like a variation on the surface. Something very similar to how we do in Substance Painter, where you have the 2 colors and you mask the darker one on top of the other one. We're going to do something very similar. So we're going to make a multiply node, hold M and click, and we're going to feed this into here. So let's feed, oops, sorry, the whole thing into there. And rather than hook anything into there, we could probably do this with a constant. Instead, we're going to change this to a value of 0.5. So that it can be a little bit faster than always having like make a 1, put it into there. If we know exactly what the value is going to be, we can just directly type it in. So what this will do is it's just going to multiply a constant, gray on top of that. So it should just make a darker variation of this color itself. We're going to make a lerp node. We're going to feed our regular color into that lerp. And we're going to then feed our darker color into the B. This one is eventually going to get fed over here, so let's feed that over there. So we got our original color. This is making a darker version of that. We just now need to make a nice mask to mask out, mask some dark onto that regular color. We're going to do that by using a texture sample of a noise texture. So I'm going to hold T and click. The name of the noise is called T_smoked tile D. So let's go ahead and set that into there. Let's make sure that we can, it's a little bit large, so we can do our texture coordinates. We're holding U and clicking. Feed that into there. And let's do a value of 3 for that again, just to make it tile a little bit better. Oops, that's not where I need to put that. Here we go. This drop down, 3, tab 3. It looks like it's doing what it's supposed to do. All right. What's going on? Let's look at this. It doesn't seem like it's updating. Maybe it's just me. We'll leave it. We'll leave it. This is going to be our mask. It's a little, we don't want so much, you know, it's a little bit variated right now. If we were to hook this up, so let's rotate around. If we hook this into our alpha, you know, we can start to see, hold on. For a moment, it's kind of hard to see with how shiny this is. Let's fix that roughness and let's make that really rough. There we go. So it's a little bit much, you know, that variation between there. So we're going to kind of contrast it a little bit. And we'll do this with a contrast node. I'm going to right click and look for our cheap contrast. We'll feed that in. We can add a constant one because we might want to, you know, whenever you do this, you might do this because you want to possibly expose it eventually for an instance. We'll set that at a value of 1 and hook these results now into our alpha. So you see what it looks like there. Let's use this one instead. And you can see it's a little bit all or, you know, it's a little bit more all or nothing. It doesn't have like that crazy variation in it. We never set up our roughness in the first material that we did copy. So why don't we go ahead and set that full roughness up now so that we can have some variation in it. This will be pretty quick. It's almost, you know, we can actually reuse our metal pretty close, you know, pretty close to that if you wanted to. So we could select these. Copy paste. And we would just need to change the name of this to tire roughness. Body rough. And then metal rough. Take this one out. Hook this up to roughness. Let's also select it and hit C. So we can mark this. I'm going to change this to green. And you could then come into here and get values of like 0.8 for the tire, maybe 0.7 for the wood. And then it doesn't matter for the metal. We're about to change it, but we could, you know, bump that down to 0. It'd be super shiny. But we want to add some variation onto that roughness for that metal. So we're going to do it very kind of similarly as we've been doing above, where we are going to use a noise to add some variation into that. So I'm just going to go ahead and just delete that node. Let's delete that out. I'm going to then add a lerp. And we're going to use this to make that. So we're going to just make our own colors for this using a constant one, just like over here. But we need 2 of them this time. So we're going to click 2. The first one's going to have a value of about 0.15. Let's try that again. And the second one is going to have a value of 0.3. We feed these into the A. We feed this one into the B. And then we just need a noise for our alpha. Let's kind of squish these up a little, save some room. Same as above, we're going to use a texture sample for this. So I'm going to hold T and click. This is getting really messy. Let's move this down. The texture we're going to use is called T macro variation. So let's go find that. T underscore macro. It's this one. We only need the red channel out of it just to make sure that we are working with just some grayscale stuff. You can kind of see what it looks like. Hook that all up, and then we should be good to go with hooking this into that B slot. And if we zoom in, we can really see that variation. And this is all work that we're just doing right in Unreal. A lot of this is very similar to how you might work in Substance Painter to do very similar things with masking, but instead we're using our nodes in our material editor instead. So let's save this and take a look at our tank. Did I remember to apply it? Let me see. I did. It can be really hard to sometimes see that metal variation in this particular scene. We can see it going on over here, but let's... I think we're done finally with the tanks. We have two more materials to go for this week. The next one is going to be doing, I can never pronounce this word right, a Fresnel. We're going to be working with making a Fresnel to an object. If you don't know what that looks like, it's this sort of effect where you have your one color in the center, and as it goes outward, it kind of changes colors. It kind of gives it like the book describes it like a velvety effect. So we're going to set one of these up because it is kind of an interesting look that if you need it on a thing, it's really useful to really help it look more realistic. So let's move to our new scene. I'm going to save this out. Make sure it's all saved. I'm going to go open up my next level. Chapter 4. And it's this scene with the tablecloth. First things first, let's save this out into my map. Oops, I think I forgot to save chapter 3 correctly. Let's do that real quick. Yeah, whoops. The good thing, I can always just go back and resave this over into the correct one. I think I need more coffee this morning. All right, let's go. There we go. Okay, so we're going to make a tablecloth texture for this that has like that Fresnel effect. So we are going to make a new material. Right click, new material. We're going to name this one M underscore tablecloth. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. We actually have one that is available to us. Chapter 2. Let me find this asset. Chapter 2, 2.4. M tablecloth start. Open up that M tablecloth start, and we're going to do a save as, and we're going to move it over into our folder. And we're going to change it just to M tablecloth. Take out that start. There we go. Because remember, we can't, if we're going to alter things, it has to be in our folder. It can't be outside the folder because I won't be able to grade it then. So very simple. Might as well start with that, where we get our constant color. And this is where we're going to work from. So let's go ahead and get in our texture. We're going to hold T for texture, click once. We're going to hold U and click again because we're going to need that texture coordinate. And we're going to move this out of the way because we're going to hook this up then with a lerp. So I'm going to hold L and place my lerp. So texture coordinate, we're going to set this to 20 for both. Feed this into our UVs. The name of the texture we need to find is T tablecloth D. T tablecloth D, this one. And then we're going to hook this into the lerp. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this color into what we're going to have that Fresnel effect around the outside of it. So we're going to make this be just like a little bit of a lighter color. So I'm going to lighten this up. It's like a pink, like a light pink. And this is what we're going to lerp. So we're going to change this into here. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Delete that off. I just hold Alt to click on that. And then we just need our alpha. And we're going to do, this is where we're going to add that Fresnel node to do this kind of like effect. So I'm just going to search for it, Fresnel. And we are going to hook this into the alpha. Let's select that node, and we want to change this exponent so that it will be a little bit more obvious. I'm going to change it to 2.5. And let's see if we can see how this is working. Let's go into here. Yeah, so if we really lower it, you can start to see it. We could change this color too. It would make it a little bit more obvious. Like if we went to like a green. You see how it's kind of getting that weird effect, but that's not what we want. We want it to be more subtle. There we go. A much more subtle effect to that. Okay, so we have this, we have that Fresnel working. Let's work on setting up our detail map for this too, just to make it a little bit more interesting. So let's add that detail. I'm going to right click and search for detail texturing. Let's give ourselves some space. This can go up here. Move this kind of out of the way. And we're going to also add in some constant nodes. So I'm going to hold 1 and do 3 constant nodes. 1, 2, 3. And we will also need some texture ones. So let's kind of give us some space. I'm going to hold T, and we need 2 of them. So 1, 2. Let's get a little bit crowded. Let's see if I can move this a little bit closer. A little bit more organized. Detail, 0, texture, 0, texture. There we go. We're going to use these to control the intensity. So I'm going to hook this right into the detail, or I'm sorry, the diffuse intensity. I'm sorry, it's scale. This goes into scale. This one goes into diffuse intensity. And then this one goes into normal intensity. We'll be able to set that scale to 20. And we'll worry about the rest in a minute, but we'll at least get that scale set to 20. Okay. We're going to then give these some textures to it. And it seems kind of funny, but it's going to work really well. For this one, we're going to use, this is kind of like going to help us with that detail diffuse, and this is going to help us with that detail normal. So this first one, we're going to set to T_ground moss D. And this one, we're going to set to T_ground moss N. We then need to kind of fix these nodes. And if you don't do this, it's not going to work correctly. So I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to change this to convert to texture object. Same thing with this one. I'm going to right click, convert to texture object. If you don't do this, the next stuff doesn't work correctly. So don't forget that. All right. Let's then start hooking this up. This goes into our detail diffuse. This goes into let's see. This needs to get fed into the diffuse. And we can actually feed this now into the base color. So we have this scale of value of 20. We got this one going into there. Our diffuse intensity, let's set this to 1. And let's go down to the next stuff. Where we'll hook this one into our normal. Detail normal, sorry. We'll make sure that our detail normal is a value of 1. And this normal gets hooked into that normal. Last part of this is we do need to give ourselves a nice roughness. And we're going to use the Fresnel node with that. So let's, somewhere where we have room, maybe down over here, we're going to add 2 constants, constant ones, and our favorite node, a lerp node. So constant 1, this one, hold L for lerp. We're going to feed this one into here and give it a value of 0.65, or kind of a different, like these are 2 different kind of gray colors. This one's going to have a value of 0.35. And we're going to run that Fresnel into the alpha here as our alpha. Let's kind of clean this up a little bit. Yep. And this one's pretty easy. We're just going to hook this now into our roughness to get some variation going. We can really see that Fresnel effect going on the outside. And let's save this out and apply it now to our thing. Yes, let's go back to content, my content, because it should be in here. So original, new. And it's a very subtle effect, but it does kind of help give it kind of like that soft sort of look to it. And that is our tablecloth. All right. Next, we are going to work with some concrete, and that will be the last little bit of how to kind of make a semi-procedural material right here in Unreal. So let's move on to our new scene. This one is going to be in 2.5. So if let's save this one out, open up our 2.5, start, save this out, files, save current level as. And we have another starter text material to start with. So let's locate that. Content, assets, chapter 2. We're in 2.5. It is this semi-procedural concrete start. We'll open that, do a quick save as, and save it into our folder. We'll take out that start. Don't need that. There we go. So very basic material where it is just this texture with a coordinate set up with a little bit of contrast. Like if we turn this down to 0, that's what it looks like. And then we turn it back up to 1. We can see how that's adjusted now, but it is pretty patterny. We can see that pattern pretty bad. So we're going to make it look a little bit nicer by basically doing almost the same thing we would do in Substance Painter, but we're going to do it in here instead. So let's get our first texture. We're going to hold T, place that. We're then going to change this to T rock marble polished, D, T rock polished. And we're just going to recycle this text chord also into here so that they'll tile the same amount. So that the one just controls both of them. And we're going to use our favorite node, the lerp node, to blend these. So I'm going to move this, make some space over here. I'm going to create my lerp over here. So L, click. I'm going to connect up this original into A. And I'm going to hook up this new one into B, and now we need our mask to lerp between them. We're going to use a third texture. It's one we've used before. I'm going to hold T and click. The texture we're going to use is that macro variation, the T macro variation. So let's set that up into here. T macro variation. And we're going to throw this into a cheap contrast to kind of help make it a nicer mask. So cheap contrast. Hook that in. Hook this into the result. And let's hook up a constant into here. We'll set this constant value to 0.5. 0.5, not 2.5, sorry. There we go. Let's see how it's looking in the viewport. So let's save this. And if you haven't done so already, let's apply it to the ground. And we can see like that variation kind of pop up. But let's push this a little bit further. Let's add a little bit more variation. So I'm going to reopen this, and I'm going to try to find some space somewhere, maybe over here. Let's see, and I'm going to add another texture sample, hold T and click, with my texture coordinates, click. Let's hook this into here, and we're going to give it a setting of 15 for both of these, 15, 15. The texture sample we're going to use is called T_rock sandstone. But we don't really want to add this much color into this. Like, it's supposed to be kind of like this neutrals, you know, like a more of like a grayish sort of color. So let's add a desaturation node so that we can kind of take some of that color out. So we're going to hook this into here. We'll use a constant into here and set that to 0.8 to take out, to desaturate that down. So it's going to look a lot more, if we quickly hook this up into here, we can see it's a lot more gray, but we can add that variation then into what we're doing. I'm going to go a little bit off of what the book does. If you wish to follow the book a little bit closer, that's fine, but I don't want to kind of abandon some of that. Instead, we're going to go ahead and make another lerp. Sorry, you just clicked it. Hold L, click for lerp. I'm going to feed this into here. Nope, I think I want to feed it into B. I'm going to feed this lerp into A. Let's feed that into there. And then we're going to kind of blend this then on top of that. I'm going to reuse this sample we have up here of that macro variation. But instead of using that cheap contrast, I'm just going to feed it. I'm going to create first a custom rotator node. Actually, no, we'll just duplicate this, Control D. So that we can have more control. And we'll put a tile, hold U, click, texture coordinate into the UVs. We'll only tile this one maybe like 2 though. The rotation angle, we'll just make that again. Let's do a fun number though. Let's do like a 0.15. And then we'll feed this into here. Let's just do the R channel. You see that? It kind of looks like a concrete floor now. So let's save this. There we go. Looking pretty nice. It's pretty close to the book. I think I took a couple liberties though. The book was a little bit confusing on how to do this. So let's see what's next. Actually, that's the end of it. We worked our way through. There is one more in the book, but we're not going to cover that in the video. It is useful. It's using distance fields to change the look of your texture. So like the closer that you are to something, does it use distance fields? Which approach does it do? Oh, world position. No, I'm sorry, it doesn't use distance fields. It uses world position, and based on that, it changes what the texture looks like. Recommend working through that, but that is not something as a part of this video. Hopefully you enjoyed working through this one. There was a couple little mistakes here and there, but we corrected them. I think I'll just make sure I drink a little more coffee before the next video. So I hope you have fun trying out some of these new techniques.